Okay, Shweta, we start in 5, huh?
Yes, sir. Namaste and greetings. I, Shweta Shankar, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान नई दिल्ली, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI. Today, we are gathered here for day 1 of the Public Policy Qualitative Participatory Action Research Fieldwork Fellowship Cohort 3.0. IMPRI, with its unwavering commitment to dynamism and innovation, proudly presents the third cohort of our Immersive program, the Public Policy Qualitative Participatory Action Research Fieldwork Fellowship, Cohort 3.0. In the third edition of our ongoing series of Action Research Fieldwork Fellowship in the realm of public policy, we are excited to broaden this opportunity to all of you, ambitious policymakers and researchers dedicated to fostering positive change through law and policy. This comprehensive 4-month program offers a unique blend of engaging lectures, interactive workshops, networking opportunities, and hands-on fieldwork experiences led by esteemed experts. Throughout the course, you will gain a deep understanding of public policy and its impact on diverse societal issues. You will be privileged to learn from globally and nationally renowned thematic experts and practitioners. The program covers crucial skills, including qualitative research methods, research tool preparation such as interviews, FGDs, and KIIs, tool testing methods, stakeholder mapping, fieldwork, research writing, and reporting. As part of this transformative journey, you will immerse yourself in the intricacies of literature review, honing your skills through valuable discussions with esteemed experts in the field. This program offers participants the unique opportunity to delve into diverse topics. Participants can choose from a varied area of international, national, or local human rights laws and policies, foreign policies such as human rights, constitutional laws, foreign policies, marginalized communities' rights, gender justice, environmental rights, disability rights, or any other such policy and law-related issue. You will be expected to conduct fieldwork in your respective cities, towns, or villages, submitting a comprehensive report by the end of the program. This hands-on experience is where theory meets the real world, allowing you to make tangible impact. The chair for the program is Professor Vibhuti Patel ji, a visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI. Our expert panel for the program includes Professor Mukul Asherji, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI and a former professor at Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. We have Professor Vijay Raghavan ji, who's a professor at the Center for Criminology and Justice, School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, the Mumbai campus. Dr. Amar Jesani ji, independent researcher and a teacher of bioethics and public health and an editor for the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics. Dr. Purnima Chauhan ji, retired IAS and a former secretary of the government of Himachal Pradesh and director of Himachal Pradesh Institute of Public Administration. Professor N. Manimekalai ji, director at the Center for Women Development Studies. Professor Gumadi Sridevi ji, who's a professor at the School of Economics, University of Hyderabad, visiting professor at IMPRI. Professor Utpal K. Deji, who's a professor and former head at the Department of Economics, the Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, Meghalaya. Dr. Soumyadeep Chattopadhyay ji, an associate professor for economics at Vishwa Bharati Shantiniketan and a visiting senior fellow at IMPRI. Dr. Prabhu Ponnuswamy ji, founder and CEO at IoT Analytics Research and Analytics Solutions Private Limited. Mr. Aravind Unni ji, for Urban Poverty Thematic Lead at Indo-Global Social Service Society, a visiting senior fellow at IMPRI. Dr. B. Rajeswari ji, Senior Consultant at Niti Consulting, and a visiting senior fellow at IMPRI. Professor Manjula Bharati ji, professor at Center for Urban Policy and Governance and Dean of School of Habitat Studies, TIS, Mumbai, and a visiting professor at IMPRI. The conveners for this course are Dr. Simi Mehta ji and Dr. Arjun Kumar ji. Welcome everyone to this insightful discussion, and I appreciate your dedication in investing your time, energy, and commitment to gain a profound understanding of the crucial role and intricate details of public policy frameworks. This program aims to empower participants with the ability to grasp the nuances and complexities of public policy paradigms, offering both theoretical insights and practical skills for research. To begin today's session, I would like to invite Professor Vibhuti Patel ji, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI, to give her opening remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Shweta, for introducing the course. And this is the third cohort of this course, and it is very important in terms of policy making because it focuses on the qualitative participatory action research, which is a very, very important concern in the 21st century world, where we need to target all the policies which are realistic and rooted at a ground level. So, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Arjun Kumar, Dr. Simi Mehta, Ms. Vaishali Singh, and the team, whole IMPRI team, for putting this course together. As we know that participatory action research, which is a very important aspect of participatory research, is that the researcher is personally involved. You can't hire a person to do data collection. Your own observations, your own commitment, your own ownership of the research is very important. So it is a very democratic, equitable, liberating, and also life-enhancing qualitative inquiry that remains distinct from other qualitative methodologies. And we have seen that over the last 50 years, the qualitative participatory action research has refined in a big way. A lot of triangulation also happens where you have a metadata or qualitative data, but you try to bring the nuances of the processes, of the dynamics, of the feelings, of different views, the pattern that are emerging in one particular sector or one particular episode. It's very important. So it is a participant has to actively make the informed decision throughout all aspects of research process, right from conceptualization of research and how to go about it. Whole research processes are also extremely important. And the primary purpose of participatory action research is that it has a transformative potential. It is imparting social change. The whole process of research itself results in a transformative qualitative change in the society, in the polity, in the lives of the people. So this course aims to acclimatize the participants with the participatory action research in terms of its history, its principles, its definitions, the strengths, and some of the challenges that we are facing, and how the research transformed into policies, into legislations, into new practices in the governance. That is very important. And that's why, as it was introduced, that all the people, all the experts who are chosen for this course are also rooted in the reality. They are public intellectual, they are very erudite speakers, they are well read, but at the same time, they are rooted in the reality. They are not pontificating in the air, but they are very much into praxis, day-to-day praxis. So you can understand the system until you try to change the existing order. So it is very important that you know the system. You cannot, without understanding the system, you cannot bring the change in the existing order. So participatory action research, like, is one option in qualitative research methodology that should be considered and understood for current challenges that we are facing, whether it is urban development or climate change or disaster management or mega events like pandemic. These are very participatory action research gives us a tool, and that is why we see whether it is a social science or humanities or medical science or public health concerns, everywhere the interdisciplinary perspective in which scholars from various disciplinary routes, they do this participatory action research. Even the multicentric researches are also happening with the participatory methods. Now, qualitative research integrates methods and techniques of observing. So your observation, your listening, your being there becomes very important. You are documenting your observations, your experiences, your responses, your critical reflections, and then you do the analysis and also interpret the characteristics and the patterns and the attributes and the meanings of human phenomena under the study. So the purpose of qualitative research methodology is to describe and understand rather than to predict and control, which does the positivism does. But in participatory action research, you have to close interaction with the community, with the reality becomes extremely important. And qualitative methods, they focus on a whole human experience of a researcher, as well as the research, phenomena or the communities that you are studying. You don't call them research subject, you call them respondent. How are they responding to your research endeavor? So in this course, like in the first month, we will have orientation and qualitative research methods classes, and also what kind of research tool you can use for the problem area that you have chosen. A preparation of your, what kind of preparation is required in terms of review of literature, in terms of identification of the demography or domain of research, identifying the universe of your research, and also testing. So you can have a pilot and also stakeholder mapping, who all are the stakeholders for your research. Then in the second month, there will be pilot study will be executed. The participants are expected to execute the pilot study through fieldwork and also research writing and reporting, how to do the research writing and also reporting that would be covered in the sessions. In third month, you would be reporting. After the fieldwork, the participants would be reporting what are the challenges they face, what are the limitations they face, what are the good insights that they got, and we can also tweak or make the changes according to the experience in the field. And the last month, fourth month, there will be reporting, there will be analysis, a report submission, and a report review and completion that you will be doing. Today we have Professor Vijay Raghavan, who has played a pivotal role in terms of bringing transformative changes on some of the most difficult areas. For example, lives of the prisoners, or when they get out of the prison, what happens? Children in conflict with law, or community which is facing various challenges, how to solve their problem and make the intervention in a more realistic way. So I think this is there. We are also going through, we will be going through the history of participatory action research, which was rooted in the so many revolutionary changes that were happening against imperialism, against colonialism, against imperialist war, and it is and the kind of post-colonial reality with the countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America were facing. It is from those experiences where the questioning started of the mainstream discipline, which most of them were rooted in the 200 years of colonialism and 500 years of slavery of Africa. So the knowledge which is generated by the colonizers and the slave owners can be serve the purpose of only theirs. There won't be any role, as Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar said, that the caste system, from the very beginning of its thinking, it completely deprived the Shudra and Atishudra masses from any kind of power. For generation and for centuries, it maintains the status quo. While participatory action research trusts the knowledge of the community, of the people who are at the receiving end of the system, who are dominated, who are oppressed, who are deprived of voice, who are deprived of representation, and who are deprived of power. So the whole process itself is a very empowering to the community, and that is why we see that any kind of a developmental, if you are talking about the human development perspective, or if you are talking about the gender equality or the human rights, then this participatory action research, and with focus on qualitative methodologies plays a very important role. Thank you very much.
I thank Professor Vibhuti ma'am for walking us through the introduction of this program. Also, I would just like to introduce Dr. Manorama Bakshiji, Director and Head of Healthcare and Advocacy, Consortia Advisory, and Founder and Director of Trilok Raj Foundation, and a visiting senior fellow at IMPRI. Yes. Next, I am delighted to invite Professor Vijay Raghavan ji, Professor at the Center for Criminology and Justice, School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, this Mumbai campus, for his inaugural session. Welcome, sir, and over to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this session. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. I think just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
So I will talk about the, what qualitative participatory action research means, especially in the context of the field situation with which I am familiar with, which is looking at the area of criminal justice. And all my experiences are based on having been associated with one of the field action projects of TISS, Center for Criminology and Justice in the School of Social Work, which is known as Prayas. Now, Prayas has been working in the criminal justice system for the last more than 34 years. We started this project in 1990, and it is still continuing till today. Basically, Prayas works in the prisons, children's institutions with special reference to children in conflict with law, children of prisoners left outside when the parent is in prison, also children of women prisoners who come into the prison due to absence of childcare in the family up to the age of 6 years as per the law, and also women rescued from commercial sexual exploitation as well as their children. So also to some extent, women living in shelter homes for government shelter homes for women who are victims of domestic violence or sexual assault or any other kind of problems because of which they have landed in a situation where they need temporary shelter. So this is broadly the category of people with whom we work. In fact, our objective is to reach out to people who come in contact with the criminal justice system. There could be broadly 3 categories of people who come in contact with the criminal justice system. One is the category of offenders and alleged offenders, which means convicted prisoners as well as under trial prisoners. That is one category. The second category is those who are victims or survivors. So these are victims or survivors of commercial sexual exploitation or victims of destitution, homeless people on the streets, etc. And the third category is the families of these affected populations. So that means families of prisoners, families of women rescued from commercial sex, families of children in conflict with law, etc., etc. And our assumption, which is borne out by our experience, is that any person who comes in contact with the criminal justice system ends up facing certain kinds of problems. One is the problem related to their legal matters. So, there is some case against them, or they have filed a case against somebody else. So if they're a victim, then they are the complainants in that case. But if they are an under trial or a convicted prisoner, then there is a case against them. So there is some brush with the law. That is the one common characteristic. The second common characteristic is because of the brush with the law, there is a social impact, a psychosocial impact of that process. So that would include, say, for example, isolation or distancing from family structures and community structures, simply by virtue of the fact that you are now in custody. Apart from the fact that there is a certain kind of isolating process which happens due to social stigma. So one is the physical isolation from family and community structures. Second is the isolation that happens as a result of social stigma. And this is even for those who are victimized by crime or sexual exploitation, that they face social stigma. So this is the second aspect which is common to people who come in contact with the criminal justice system. The third is that their families get affected. So not only are they getting affected, but their families, their children, their relatives, their grandchildren, there is an impact on them as well. And we are talking about negative impact, not positive impact. The fourth is the impact it has on livelihoods. Their livelihoods get affected. And because their livelihoods get affected, their income sources get affected, which means that their economic levels go down. If they are already coming from poverty-stricken families, that situation gets worse. And the fifth can be, the social connections that we all have in our society, or what we can call as social capital, that gets affected, including the fact that many of these people find it very difficult to find life partners. So they end up getting, lonely, isolated, and then they get into negative behaviors, which could include alcoholism, drug use, mental illness, and finally death. So this is the continuum that I'm talking about. Of course, this does not mean that this is happening to everybody who comes in contact with the criminal justice system. The important fact to remember is that you can broadly categorize people who come into criminal justice system into two categories. One is those with good family support as well as financial support, and the other is those without good family support and without financial support. I'm talking about the second category, because the first category is somehow able to manage on their own. I mean, take the example of, let's say, Naresh Goyal, who is the former chairman of Jet Airways. Look at what has happened to him after he has got into prison. His entire life has become completely, in a way, destroyed. Sorry, there's a call coming. Yeah, sorry. But to some extent, he has been able to manage things on his own. He has the services of the best lawyers who can be paid to appear for him in court. He has been able to finally get medical bail, and he's in hospital right now, and things of that sort. He does have family support, etc., etc. But despite all this, one cannot say that it has not affected him at all. In fact, it has affected him in a very serious way. But we are not working with that category because they have some kind of support available with them. We work with people who don't have that support, who don't have family support, or who don't have good family support, or who are coming from poor families, as well as those who have financial issues. And also, this is also the group which constitutes the majority of the marginalized communities. So these are also people who come from Dalit background, tribal background, minority background, etc., etc. And plus, apart from the fact, they also come from a poor educational status. So all the, what you can say, disabilities in a person's life, they coalesce with this category of people. So social, psychological, economic, political, you can count all of that, educational, and you'll find that these people with whom we work are at the lowest rung of all these hierarchies that one talks about. So with that background, I will start my presentation. I hope you're able to see. Should I do screen? What is it?
Full screen.
Full
It's the
screen. Yeah,
bottom
full
of
screen.
the.
Working
Full
mode,
screen. Yeah. 1 minute. Yeah,
Yes.
it's visible, I suppose.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So I'll start with an introduction to what is participatory action research. I'm sure Professor Patel has already done a session on it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but just to like a background to what
We
we
are
can call.
starting with you. We are
Okay.
starting with you.
Okay.
Dr.
Okay.
Raghavan, we are starting with you. We are not-
Okay.
This is the
Okay.
first
Fine.
session.
Okay. Just a minute. Yeah. So, what is qualitative research, participatory action research? One way to look at it is, first of all, most participatory action researchers, I don't know of any participatory action researchers which have a quantitative research methodology. To the best of my knowledge, these are essentially qualitative research methodologies that one uses. So, which means that one is looking at methods like in-depth interviews, focus group discussions, workshops, meetings, and things of that sort. This is the objective is to understand a phenomenon or a problem from the perspective of the people who are affected by the problem. So that is something very important for us to understand, that when we are talking about participatory action research, it is coming from a critique of positivist and quantitative research methodologies, which do serve a very important purpose. One is not trying to at all belittle the concept of quantitative research methodologies, because quantitative research methodologies give us a broad sweep of the problem. They tell us, what is the extent of the problem. They tell us what is the scale of the problem. They tell us what are the trends that we need to be looking at when we are examining a problem. Take the example of the Census Survey of India. It is the best possible methodology that has been used to develop and get to know details about the population of India, or you look at as the NFHS survey, or, the family health service. There's so many methods that are being used where they essentially focus on quantitative research methods. And the idea is to get a broader trend and a broader sweep and a scale of the problem that we are looking at. However, all these methods will not be able to help us to understand the nuances of a problem. Why is it that a particular community in the same district has higher access to education and the literacy levels of that community are higher as compared to the literacy levels and the access to education of another community living in the same area? Now, this is a question which a quantitative research methodology may not be able to answer. And if you want to understand that problem, then you may have to resort to qualitative research methods. Another issue of a point of difference between when do you use qualitative and when do you use quantitative research methods is how well or how much is known about a particular problem. If a particular problem or an issue is kind of well known, the contours of that problem, there is enough knowledge and data that has already been collected about that issue over a period of time, then it is useful to continue to use quantitative research methods, what we call as explanatory research design. Whereas when we are looking at qualitative research, we usually use it when we are doing exploratory research design or when we are using what we call as descriptive research design. The idea is that you use qualitative research methodologies when you don't know enough about that issue. So suppose I want to know about why do men rape. Okay. Now this is an issue which will yield very little in terms of outcomes if you were to use a quantitative research design. You might know about the profile of that population, you might know about their socioeconomic background, you might know about their educational background, etc., etc. But you will not be able to decipher too much about the central problem that you wanted to investigate, which is why do men rape? Now, if you were to get into that, you would have to get deeper, take a few cases, identify people who are willing to talk to you, build rapport with them, develop a relationship with them, and then try to understand the phenomenon from the perspective of the person who has engaged in such kind of offenses. I suppose you're getting what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So the first point that I wanted to make here is that we are looking at qualitative research methodology where it is involving both the researchers and the participants working together to understand what the problem is all about. So what we are assuming here is that the participants of that particular research, they know enough about the issue that we are talking about. In fact, they know more than what we know as researchers. That is the first premise based on which we are approaching participatory action research. That the people who are affected by the problem know better than us as researchers. And therefore, we need to draw on their understandings, we need to draw on their experiences, and we need to draw on their perspectives to develop a holistic approach to address the problem that we are trying to address. Secondly, one of the important things about participatory action research is it's directed towards bringing about social change. The purpose is action. That is why it's called participatory action research, which means that your objective is to bring about action. Your objective is not only to do research, your objective is to intervene into the problem and then come out with a answer to the problem that you're trying to address. So let me give you a simple example, not a simple, but an example of a participatory action research that we at the Center for Criminology and Justice got into a couple of years back, in fact, 3 years back. The Commissioner of Police, Meera Bhayandar Vasai Virar Commissionerate, Dr. Sadanand Date, who incidentally has now become the Director General of National Investigation Agency. He is himself quite a scholarly person, if I may put it that way. And he wrote to the director of TISS, I think in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, saying that he's observing that the number of cases of missing girls and runaway girls and young people getting involved in love affairs, leading to a lot of social unrest, including boys getting arrested and their lives getting spoiled, is something that is a matter of concern as far as he's concerned. And as the Commissioner of Police of that region, he wants to do something about it. And so he approaches us and asks us to do a study on this issue. Our director in turn referred the matter to our center, and then 3 of us, including one from the director's office. There's a field action project of TISS called Koshish, which was led by someone called Muhammad Tariq. And so Koshish and Prayas decided to work together to look at this whole issue. And so what we started off with is, first, let us go and do a pilot visit. And based on that pilot visit, come out with some broad findings based on which we can develop a proposal. So what did we do? We had a series of meetings, and because this matter had the highest officer was very keen and interested in this problem, we got full cooperation of the local police in understanding this issue. So he gave us permission and said, you go and meet the police officers in these particular police stations, because there were a few police stations where these cases were higher than the other police stations. So we identified those police stations. First thing we asked for is data. We said, just give us last 3 years data of cases filed under POCSO Act and also cases of runaway children, both girls and boys, missing children, both boys and girls. And based on the data that they gave us, we identified some 3 or 4 police stations where these cases were higher. Then what we did was, almost for a month, we went and met police officers and constables from those police stations. We had joint meetings, we had one-to-one meetings, etc. And from that entire discussion process, they told us many things about why these cases are going on. In fact, they had very good understanding of what the problems were in the community. One is that they said that this is a migrant, largely now today in Mira Bhainder, Vaisai Virar, there are lots of people who are migrants to the city, recent migrants to the city, not first, second, third generation, but first generation migrants to the city. And the reason for that is very obvious. Land and real estate prices and houses are available in these areas at a much lower rate than what is available in other parts of Mumbai. So a lot of migration is now happening into these areas. Secondly, these areas are also the recent hubs for commercial sexual exploitation. There are many dance bars and there are other kinds of, areas where, women are, coming for sex work. And then therefore there is also presence of traffickers in these areas. That is another sense that we got. The other thing was children living unsupervised lives because both parents are going for work because of economic reasons, and these children are living cheek by jowl, many of them from different communities. That means Hindu and Muslim communities. And that is leading to younger people under the influence of social media, making friends, and sometimes being misled by certain kinds of illegal elements, and also getting into love relationships, which is leading into sexual contact, and then leading to them eloping because their families would not agree, also because many of them are minors. So once we did this round of consultations with police officers and constables, we then had a second round of discussion with the police commissioner. And he asked us, now what do you want us to do? So we said, instead of doing a detailed research on this issue, why don't we start a kind of an action research? And what is meant by action research? We will appoint 2 full-time social workers, trained social workers, who will work in 2 police stations, which have the highest rate of such cases coming up. And this will be a 1-year study, action research, where these 2 social workers who will be attached to the police, and police will give them full cooperation. And we will develop a strategy and a methodology of how to work with the police and the people on this issue. And as we work, we will document that process. So in that sense, it's an action research. There is action going on, and there is research because we are documenting it and analyzing the data that is coming out from it. So the social workers were appointed, 2 young girls who were CCA or criminology graduates and had been working for a couple of years. We did a process of interview, etc., and these 2 girls got appointed. Before they got appointed, Prayas and Koshish staff had started doing weekly visits to the police stations. So by the time these girls had been appointed, there was already an understanding of what needs to be done. And so we developed a broad strategy. One would be regular visits to the communities from where these cases are coming, and develop a rapport with the local community leaders, the masjid, people who are in charge of the masjid or the local mandir, religious or socio-political organizations, CBOs, etc. So one level of work would be to work with all these local groups to understand the problem and to create awareness amongst these groups that they need to play a role of preventive approach when it comes to the problem of young people getting involved in sexual relations, in terms of educating them, in terms of making them aware about the POCSO Act, that if If you get involved in a relationship with a minor girl, remember it's a non-bailable offense. Even though there is consent involved in both parties, that consent is not to be considered as consent, and you will be arrested and put behind bars. And if you're a minor, you will stay in the observation home for a few months. But if you're a major, that means you're above 18 years of age, you will end up in prison, and you might be inside prison for 3 to 5 years, because these are non-bailable offenses. We also decided that we will do a series of awareness sessions in schools, especially with students in the age group of 8 to class 12th. This was one part of the strategy, which means working with local groups and schools to understand what the nature of the problem is and to create awareness amongst them about this issue. Sessions on good touch, bad touch, sessions on consent, all of that was part of this strategy. The second approach was, if any parent or any complainant comes to the police station with a complaint, either a missing complaint or a complaint of kidnapping or a complaint of rape, etc., etc., they will involve the social workers in that case. Involve in what sense? Not as far as the legal aspects is concerned. The legal aspects will be handled by the police. Where filing a case, FIR, all of that, we have nothing to do with it. But once the legal matters are addressed, the police will ask us to intervene in that case. So the social workers would then talk to the family members. The social workers will make a visit to the community. The social workers will see now what help does that girl need, whether she needs counseling and support, whether she needs any other kind of support, because she has now been stigmatized as a girl, with whom something wrong has happened. So the community response is also very negative. So that is the kind of intervention that we decided to start. This project went on for more than a year, and we had regular review meetings. Every 3 months, we would have a review meeting where the concerned police station senior inspectors and the local ACPs, the DCP, and the commissioner would chair these meetings. So the whole process was taken very seriously, and we would make presentations about what work we have done so far, what is the way forward, and what's feedback and suggestions we got from them, which we wanted to incorporate. So if there were some things that were emerging as new, then we would present those facts, and they would in turn tell us, okay, you can do it this way, or you can do it this way, or this aspect is being left out. I think your social worker should also look at this angle, and things of that sort. At the end of the project, after 1 year was completed, we looked at the entire data. So data was one in terms of cases, that is quantitative data. Data was in terms of the type of interventions that were engaged with by the social workers. And data was in terms of any impact that was created as a result of the interventions. In terms of one of the things we found is that people are much more comfortable approaching the police because of the presence of the social workers there. They started coming up. They also started opening up more easily because somebody was there to talk to them in a different way from what the police would be talking to. So all this data that came up, we analyzed that data, and we came up with our findings and recommendations. And the major recommendation that we have made in this report is that in order to create child-safe communities, there is a need for the police and community level organizations and leaders to work very closely with one another, for which we have suggested a structure of how this collaboration can take place. Structures at the booth level, that is the chowki level, and structure at the police station level, which will meet on a regular basis, and it will be like a forum, like a pressure cooker release forum, where if there's any problem, they can come to this particular forum. The meetings will happen on a regular basis. So this was one type of recommendation we have made. The second recommendation we have made is that social workers should be appointed in police stations. And this has been one of the long-term goals of Prayas's work, that the criminal justice system needs trained social workers to be appointed at all different points, wherever there is a interface between the citizen and the criminal justice system. And no other place than the police station is the is the place where maximum interface is taking place between the citizen and the police. And therefore, the presence of a social worker who is a trained person, who has knowledge about welfare services, who has basic knowledge about the laws, who has basic skills relating to counseling and referral for long-term support, etc., would be not only useful to the citizens who come there, but would be extremely useful to the police. Because they will have support, because they're not equipped to handle all the kinds of situations that come into a police station. So broadly speaking, I'm just summarizing it. We have come up with some 3-4 major recommendations. The report is yet to be submitted. Unfortunately, the person who initiated this project has now got transferred and he has gone away to Delhi. And if he was present, maybe something more solid would have happened. But let us hope that we are able to take this forward. So I have given you this example of how do you collaborate with the stakeholders. In this case, the stakeholders were the police, the stakeholders were the local community, the stakeholders were the leaders, the stakeholders were the schools and junior colleges, etc. And the researchers in this case, who were social workers, interacted with all of them on a continuous basis while also addressing the problems in some way or the other and documenting that process. And through that, the data that came out was then taken forward in terms of recommendations. So as you can see in this slide, participatory action research is an umbrella term that is used for researches where you engage stakeholders in every step of the research process. This is very important, every step of the research process. It's not enough to come up with a research design and just go and implement it with your participants or your stakeholders, because then I don't see it as then participatory action research. I would then see it as qualitative research being engaged in. Participatory action research means you're involving the stakeholders in as many steps as possible. It may not be possible for every step of the way, but once you've designed the tool, are you going to the stakeholders and asking them, what do you think about this tool? Is this tool okay? Should we make some changes in the tool? Now, this is one example of, engaging stakeholders. After you have done a pilot, your pilot trips, and you have collected a little bit of data from that pilot trip, can you again go back to your stakeholders and say, this is what has come out of it. Tell us what more needs to be done about this. So in the sense, the stakeholders become, they start owning that research process. They don't feel that some outsider has come and is doing research, but they start becoming partners in that process. Now, that is a big challenge. Usually, it takes a lot of effort for this thing to happen. So when we say at every step of the way, what are the different steps that I have listed out here? One is defining the research problem. So in this case, it is a very good example of who defined the research problem. The research problem was defined by the police. We did not define it. We didn't go to the police and say, we want to do a research on child sexual abuse in Mira Bhainder Vasai Virar Police. They came to us saying, we are facing this problem and we want you to investigate this problem. Developing the research questions. What are the correct research questions? And here it is very important that we don't get carried away by the, the greed of the researcher. Researchers by definition are greedy people. They want to collect as much data as possible and they want to collect, as many areas of research as possible. But in participatory action research, you remember that your objective is to come up with some actions. Therefore, you need to frame your questions in a way that it addresses the problem that you have identified to deal with that, to kind of address the issue. How do you gather the data? What is the best way to collect data? There also you have to involve the people with whom you are working. How do you analyze the data? I'll give you an example of how in one particular study that we had done many years back, we had done a small study of follow-up study of girls released from children's institutions after completing 18 years of age Where are they now? Their rehabilitation, what happened? And through snowballing, we were able to identify some 30 odd cases over a period of some couple of years. And we interviewed them. And based on that, we came up with some good data. Now, when it came to analyzing the data, we could have easily had 2 researchers who were involved in the project to do the analysis. But what we did was we involved the entire team of Prayas of about 30 people sitting together and analyzing the data. And how we did it, the very iterative process. The researcher who had collected the data read out all the interviews. And after going through 2 readings of the interviews, the entire team sat together and identified themes and sub-themes for data analysis, saying that these should be the themes for data analysis. What are the crucial factors which affect the rehabilitation process? And from the interviews, what had emerged as themes, those themes were identified by all of us sitting together. We went away for a 2-day retreat in JJ Nursing Association in Aksa Beach. And, all of us sat together for 2 days and we read the interviews and we analyzed the themes, came up with themes and sub-themes. And then subsequently, the researcher continued with the data analysis process. Similarly, when it comes to recommendations, your recommendations must be vetted by the stakeholders that you're, going to, because ultimately they are the ones who are going to implement those recommendations. So if they find your recommendations very up in the air, very impractical, all broad sweeping, actually, if you see most researchers, good researchers, they are good up to the point of findings. But when it comes to recommendations, you just usually find the recommendations to be very sweeping. The government should do this one should do that one should do that. It doesn't help. You have to be very specific about your recommendations. Who has to do what in what manner? As specific as you can get. Only then the stakeholders will take it. So out of your 15 recommendations, they might find 2 recommendations to be good. And they might say, okay, we'll implement this. At least some bit of your research has been worth it. So in simpler terms, participatory action research engages those who are close to the problem while also striving to make positive change. So these are the 2, the whole participatory action research hinges on these 2 things. You involve those who are close to the problem. So if you're talking about rehabilitation of women in sex work, you have to engage them at all stages of your research. And the objective is to strive for some kind of an action. So this is kind of a summation of what we can call as participatory action research. Now, one aspect of participatory action research is what we call as policy influenced research. That means there are certain kinds of researches which are influenced largely to bring about policy level changes. Now here, what we can look at is you are trying to address policy gaps vis-a-vis a social problem. So let us say the social problem is that of women victims of violence and the kind of support they get from government or from society. This is a social problem because women victims of violence, we know, do not get the kind of support that they should get in order to become, in order to get back as confident women, able to handle their own life situations, etc. So that's a policy gap. And we also know that the Constitution of India, the policies, women's policies, and the Department or the Ministry of Women and Child Development are all mandated to do this. So you know that somebody is responsible to do this job, but they are not doing that job well. So you have a social problem and you have the stakeholders ready. So in the case of violence against women, your stakeholders would be police, it would be judiciary, and it would be Department of Women and Child Development, and maybe some other departments like skill development or education, etc., etc. So you identify who are your main stakeholders vis-a-vis the problem, and you have to come up with a research which will come up with policy recommendations for each of these departments. And I'll give you an example of this that we did, one kind of policy research that we did when it came to children of women prisoners left outside. Prayas has been working on the issue of children of women prisoners left outside from the year 1991. How did we start this? When we started our work in the prison, one of the first things that women told us when our social workers started working with them was, please go and see how our children are. We are very worried about the situation of our children. So the social worker started making home visits, and slowly we got an understanding that children of women prisoners are in a very neglected state. There is lack of food at home. They are suffering as far as nutrition is concerned. They're dropping out from school. There is mental health issues that they are facing. There is attempt to suicide. There is problem of children running away from home. There is a problem of their property being taken over by relatives. There's a problem of them being forced out of the house. There's a problem of not being able to sustain in the house because they're not able to pay house rent. Myriad problems that these children are facing. Because it is an invisible group, nobody cares about this group. Nobody knows about this group. At that stage, and I'm talking in 1991 when we started work. All the policy documents which talk about children in difficult circumstances do not include the category of children of prisoners. So when under the Ministry of Women and Child Development, there is a policy document called National Policy for Children, in which they have a category called children in difficult circumstances. In that, there is a whole list of children in difficult circumstances. There are children in drug abuse, street children, orphan children, single parent children, children on the streets, children in child labor, children begging. There's an exhaustive list, but when we looked at that document, we found that nowhere it was mentioned about children of prisoners. And that's when we realized that this is a problem that needs to be looked at more seriously. So we decided that just anecdotal experience is not going to help us. Government does not respond to anecdotal data. So we decided to do a qualitative study, and we finally published it as a book, which is called Forced Separation, Children of Imprisoned Mothers. It is available on the Prayas page on the TIS website, a scanned copy of the book. When we did the study, we decided to do it in two cities, Mumbai and Delhi. We got permission from the prison authorities to first get in touch with the mothers inside, and then through them get in touch with their children left outside. The study lasted for more than a year. Data was collected in a very, very painstaking manner because, we had to go and visit those families in their homes where they were living, and then talk to them, sit with them, build rapport with them, then understand what the situation is, etc., etc. At the end of this research, after the findings chapter, there is a chapter called Whose Responsibility? And that is the chapter which is about policy influenced research. In that chapter, we started with the Constitution of India. What does the Constitution talk about? Rights of children. Then we went to the National Policy for Children. Where are the gaps? And like this, then we went to the responsibility of each department. And we have made detailed recommendations for each department. So recommendations for prison department, recommendations for judiciary, recommendations for police, recommendations for women and child development department, recommendation for social justice department, etc., etc. Now, if we have a document like this, tomorrow we want to have a meeting with, say, Secretary Social Justice, and we want him or her to understand the extent of this problem. and say, why don't you also include something in your department with regard to children of prisoners? He will say, I have nothing to do with children of prisoners. That is the work of the Women and Child Development Department. So we have to then show them that, no, you have a connection. Here is a study. Look at the findings of the study. For example, most of the children are coming from categories which are the responsibility of the Social Justice Department. These children are from SC, ST, OBC and minority community. So the Minority Development Department also has a role in it. The Social Justice Department has a role in it. What about schemes of the Social Justice Department? How will those schemes reach out to these children? Is there a mechanism that has been built? So this is how we look at the whole issue of policy influenced research. The question is, once you have done this research and you have a document in hand, how do you take it forward? Now, there are different ways. One is, of course, through dissemination. Today, thanks to social media, dissemination has become a much easier process than what used to be 25 years back. Earlier, dissemination would mean that we would have to have so many meetings with different stakeholders, and that is still very important, I think, needs to be done. But also the fact that once you have done a study, you put it out on LinkedIn or you put it out on Facebook and things like that with a small video which talk about that issue and what kind of findings, people will notice it. It will generate a certain kind of buzz, provided you have done your publicity well. So dissemination is a very important one. But the second and the more important one, according to me, is that policy change has to happen only by approaching the authorities concerned, which means you have to write to the concerned departments. You have to go and have meetings with them. You may have to organize a consultation. You may have to organize a workshop or a conference to discuss that issue. Call that secretary WCD as chief guest to come and talk about the issue. And that way you can get that person's interest, and commitment in that meeting, etc. And one last way to go is to bring about policy change is to go to court. And with regard to this issue of children of prisoners, that is a strategy we used. What was happening was, in the Supreme Court of India, there was a PIL going on called R.D. Upadhyay versus State of Andhra Pradesh. And that is a time when our study had just come out. So we decided to approach the amicus curiae in that case, and we gave him a copy of the book. And we said, why don't you just go through this book and tell us if you would like this data to be presented before the court. So he said, okay, give me 1 week's time, come back after a week. We went back after a week and he said, this report is very, very useful. And I'm going to present this to the court as evidence of the problem that children of prisoners face. And you prepare a note based on the recommendations of your study, which we will submit as an affidavit. And that's what he did. And then the court went through our recommendations, and thankfully, they included many of our recommendations in their final orders. So the R.D. Upadhyay versus State of Andhra Pradesh is a very famous judgment today when it comes to the issue of children of prisoners. And in that, the court has acknowledged the work of Prayas in terms of the work that it has done and included many of the suggestions. Just one example of suggestion I'll give. When a child is born in prison, we used to find that in many cases, the birth certificate would put the name of the jail. Now, this is a permanent stigma on the life of the child. So we would go to the municipal authorities and tell them that please change this, because don't put the name of the jail. Instead, you put another, just name of the city or the native or the address of the mother as the birthplace. But they would say that as per the official procedure, the birth certificate is made based on what is entered in the register at the time of birth by the hospital authorities. So when a child is being born, the hospital authorities note down the address of the child, the parent, and that slip is handed over to the municipal authorities for issuing the birth certificate. So they said, unless you change that, we cannot make that change. So we realized that this is really a ridiculous problem because, they are getting lost in the technicalities. So we made a recommendation in our submission to the court saying the birth certificate should not mention the name, the name and address of the prison where the mother is housed. And the Supreme Court passed an order on that. Once it's a Supreme Court order, it's the headache of the authorities how to solve that problem. Now, even today, after that order was passed in 2006, even today, this continues to happen in many cases. And every time you have to go to the authorities, show them the Supreme Court order and say you are violating court orders by doing this. So what I'm trying to say is that there are different ways by which you have to engage with authorities concerned when you're talking about policy influence research. I've already talked to you about the Children of Prisoners study. I'll take two more examples and then I'll close for my part of the discussion. Another study that we did, which is falling in the category of policy influenced and participatory research, is a study we did on what are the different ways by which prison authorities facilitate contact with the families of the prisoners. Now, as of now, there is a system which is available throughout the country called Mulakat. Mulakat means a system where families can come, they have to stand outside the prison. There's a glass partition. In some places, there's a wire mesh, but most places, there's a glass partition. And you can talk across. You must have seen it in all these Hindi movies, of this Mulakat system. It's a chaotic place where people can't hear each other because of overcrowding, especially in big cities and towns. In smaller district places, Mulakat is quite decent because crowd pressure nahi hota hai. So people get time to talk to their family members. But in cities like Mumbai and Delhi, etc., it's a real mad rush. Many states have taken steps to improve the situation. For example, some states have started the process of video calling facility. So you don't have to come all the way to meet your family member. You can arrange a video call whereby you can see each other, through a WhatsApp call or through a video conference system. Many states have started the system of phone calls, where you can, pay 1 rupee and make a 3-minute or a 5-minute call to your family members. Many states have started e-Mulakat system whereby you can get an appointment what time you're going there. So you're not waiting there for 3 hours, 4 hours kind of situation. There is a website where you book an appointment. So you get a slot, say you can meet the family at between 12 and 2. You'll get a slot. Then you only go for that slot and you get your Mulakat done. There are also states which have created facilities to improve the environment in which the Mulakat takes place. So Telangana state, for example, they have built these lovely, very nice, waiting rooms with air coolers, and there's a small canteen facility. There are nice and clean toilets, washrooms, drinking water facility, etc., etc. So what we decided was, let us try and understand why different states have different facilities and whether we can collect the best practices and put it together in the form of a report. The objective was very clear. We wanted Mulakat facilities to be improved. And if you just make random recommendations, nobody is going to listen to it. But if we say Tamil Nadu has this facility, Rajasthan has this facility, Haryana has this facility, there is concrete evidence that this is already happening in some state. So why can't it be done in other states? So that is how we decided. We did a little bit of recce first, and we tried to identify 4 or 5 states. Also, we are stuck by funding crunch, so we can't do for all 28 states of the country. So we identified some 4-5 states, and we decided we will do this study in Maharashtra because we are working in Maharashtra. We will do it in Delhi, in Haryana, and in Tamil Nadu. These 4 states. Because we knew that the situation of Mulakat in these 4 states is quite good. So how did we go about it? We approached the prison department of that state and said, we want to document your best practices. Now, moment we say that we want to document your best practices, they become happy because they know that we have not come there to criticize them. We have come there to understand how they are implementing their good practices. Then they gave us permission to visit a few jails in their state. Our team went and visited those jails. They interviewed the prison officers who are running those facilities. They interviewed prisoners and they interviewed family members of prisoners. And then they also tried to interview the head of the department if it was possible, in terms of understanding the vision, why they brought in these changes, etc. Based on this study, we came out with a report which is called Prisoners' Contact with Their Families study. This study is also available on the TIS website, on the Prayas page. Now, the report was there, good practices documented, good recommendations made about what is to be done. Now, the next step, what can we do? So we approached, there is a body called Academy of Prisons and Correctional Administration in Vellore. And there is another body called Institute of Correctional Administration in Chandigarh. The Chandigarh Institute looks after the training of prison officers of the northern states. And the Vellore Institute looks after the training of prison officers of the southern state. We approached the director of these 2 institutions saying that we have this report. Can you arrange a webinar with the prison departments of the states with which you are kind of constantly in touch with, because you do trainings for them? And they said, yes, absolutely, no problem. It will be also a feather in their cap that they organized a webinar. This was during the COVID period. So we organized a series of webinars, about 3 to 4 webinars, where senior officers from the prison department were present, where we presented our findings and our recommendations, and we sent them a copy of the report in case they want to look at it. Now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to go beyond that. Any organization has certain limitations where, there's only so much you can do. But if we wanted to do more, we could have followed it up by individual meetings with those prison heads of departments. Following up by asking, okay, we've sent you this report, your senior officers have attended this webinar. Is there something from this report which you can take forward for your own department? And then keep following it up till it finally, those changes take place. Final example I want to give is about the issue of bail. We all know that access to bail is a problem for particularly people coming from marginalized communities. There are many people who remain in jail even after bail has been granted because they don't have the surety or they don't have the cash amount for which the bail amount has been, bail has been granted by the court. So we have been running a project in Maharashtra prisons, for about 8 prisons in the state, since 2018, which is called Legal Aid and Bail Project. This project is funded by the Azim Premji Foundation. Under this project, we have appointed social workers and lawyers team. Each prison, there is a team of social worker and lawyer, and they work together to identify people who need access to legal aid and to identify people for whom bail has already been granted and how we can facilitate their release. So the work has been going on since last 3-4 years, and we realized that there are many problems and hurdles in coming out on bail, and we need to document it. And once we document it and we come out with our recommendations, we will go to the High Court or the Supreme Court and give them a copy of that report and say, see what you can do about it. So we decided that we will interview our fellows, those who are working on these cases, these social workers and these legal fellows. I told you about the team which is working on this project. They have wealth of experience now. They have been working for last 3-4 years, so they have good understanding of what the issues are. So we decided to interview them. We decided to interview a few key good lawyers with whom we have been working. And we decided to interview maybe a few prison officers to understand what is their perspective about bail. But most importantly, we decided to interview those prisoners who had been released on bail through our efforts. Because if we have got involved into the picture, means that they were languishing inside for a few months at least. Because normally what happens is when a bail is granted, 90% people go out on bail. But there are people who remain inside even after bail has been granted, sometimes for months together. So if Prayas has got into the picture, it means that these are those cases who are languishing inside and then helped to facilitate their release. So we decided to interview those prisoners who had been released on bail through Prayas efforts and ask them, what were the hurdles you faced in being released on bail? And what is the problems and situation you're facing now after release on bail? So we did 35 interviews with such released prisoners out on bail. We interviewed all the legal and social work fellows of Prayas, which was around 15 of them. And we interviewed some of our own other long-term staff social workers, which could be another 5-10 of them. So a very limited kind of a study, but most of the data was qualitative data. Then that data was analyzed, and now it is ready in the form of a report with very decent and good recommendations of how we can alleviate this problem of people languishing inside after bail being granted. Some of the recommendations, fortunately, have even gone into a Supreme Court judgment. It's called Sonadhar versus State of Chhattisgarh in 2023. The Supreme Court was hearing a matter of people released, people in jail despite bail being given. And the Supreme Court asked NALSA, which is the National Legal Services Authority, to consult TISS in this matter. In fact, it is again a matter of chance and good fortune that the judge in that bench, one of the judges, it was a 2-judge bench, was Justice Abhay Oak. And Justice Oak is from the Bombay High Court. He was elevated to the Supreme Court a few years back. And he knew about the work of Prayas because he was in Bombay High Court. So because he knew, he mentioned this in their order that NALSA should consult TISS in framing the recommendations of what to do about people who are languishing in jail despite bail being granted. And that is how our suggestions were brought in. NALSA did a meeting with us. We gave our suggestions. Many of those suggestions were emerging from the study that we had already done. The report was not yet out, but we knew what the broad suggestions are. And now the report is ready. We have now decided to approach the High Court judge in Bombay, who is in charge of the State Legal Services Authority, to inaugurate the report, to release the report. And we have met him, and he has promised to give us a date after the vacations, which means after 5th June. Once the report is released, we will do a little bit of a small release function, maybe call a few people from the press, create a little bit of buzz in the newspapers. And once that report is released, we will send copies of it to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, to the Chairman of NALSA in Delhi, and maybe even to copy to all the state legal services authorities and see what comes out of it. Yeah. So I will stop here. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir, for providing us such a comprehensive and enlightening session. The floor is now open for questions. Yeah, before that, I would invite Professor Vibhuti ma'am for her remarks.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Professor Vijay Raghavan, for such a erudite and simple lucid style of explaining the ground reality. I could see so many parallels in the collective efforts of various social movements, which also have used the participatory action research to bring in so many important GRs and legislations regarding forest dwellers' right or right to information. Our own experience of one-stop crisis center, where during the 80s we used to run from hospital to police station to court, and also with the children of women who were thrown out by their families. From that idea emerged, and when the participatory action research process was started with one hospital, like in Baba Hospital, the documentation of the processes was happening, and how the whole model for one-stop crisis center located in the hospital can be created, where all the services can converge. First of all, most important thing is the health and whatever injuries that women had. So casualty ward had an important role. And if such center is located in the hospital, then women can get, first of all, the emergency services and the medical intervention, and all other services from police and court and shelter home can also converge there. Similarly, we as gender economists have also used this technique for gender responsive budgeting, showing that how budgeting which is targeted to reduce the gender gaps in vital areas. So going through the schemes, whether it's a Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan or Janani Suraksha Yojana, the maternity benefit scheme, in that also participatory action research has proved a convincing case of redesigning the scheme with, and also seeing to it that it is implementable. Even the medical examination of survivors of sexual violence, where the why two-finger test is not required, and creation of a standard operative procedures for collecting even dying declaration of burn victims in the hospital in the presence of women representatives. All these emerged, and I think you have explained the process right from conceptualization to the stakeholders, and how it creates transformation is extremely enlightening for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also like to invite Dr. Manorama Bakshiji for her comments.
Well, thank you, Shweta. Actually, am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Actually, thanks for giving me a chance, because as a public health professional working across public health for last more than 2 decades, I see PAR indispensable for addressing the multiple faceted challenges. Especially, I have worked for a decade with HIV/AIDS, on HIV/AIDS, especially working very closely with people living with HIV/AIDS, and I could see how much, like in the beginning of 2000, when people were and the governments were so much averse to people living in HIV/AIDS coming in, policy corridors, talking about their rights, speaking on the issues, and there was so much of myths and misconception. To today, where we are, when in people with HIV/AIDS, I mean, they are involved in to contribute to research, to advocacy, to behavior change programs, so campaigns, which we are talking about HIV/AIDS. And so things have moved a lot, and I can see how much participatory action research is also very much imperative when we talk about the reproductive rights. Because I have been myself, when I was doing the RMN CHA and I was traveling across India, 184 high priority districts. I remember when I went to Mewat, wherein the total fertility rate at that point was around 5 to 6. And I was talking to these women. And then I had to go and meet the Maulvis of the certain communities, go into the mosques and speak to the Maulvis and talk to them and tell them that women are anemic, they are delivering, but their children are LBW, low birth weight babies, and how it can be, changed, and how much then I involved them. And after that, we introduced DIMPA, because it came out from a couple of Maulvis when I spoke to them. They said it's against the religion, but injection is not. If you can have the injections, then that is not, and that is how we introduce injections, DIMPA, and that too from Evad. So I feel that actually if PAR, it is even following that, we did the supportive supervisions, wherein right from the ground, everybody else was involved. Even though Ashas are part of the community in the health, and as Dr. Patel, as well as Professor Raghavan also raised issues, Dr. Patel just now said how the policies, she gave the example of Janani Suraksha Karikram. I mean, how these kind of involving these people, right from the ASHA and community people, that has framed the, our programs. It helped us to frame the guidelines, because I have been, for a larger part of my life, I have been associated with NACO, with Ministry of Health for almost a decade. So we were the part of like how the policies are formed. And I think PAR into the public health policy framework especially led us to more responsive, more inclusive, and more effective strategies, how we can combat RMNCHA issues, women issues, gender issues, and especially the rights of people living with HIV/AIDS. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak a bit on all these issues. Thank you, Professor. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Now the floor is open for questions. Ms. Kalyani Talvelkar.
Talwal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Talvelkar.
Thank you. Thank you for giving.
Please unmute it.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, it has been such a pleasure to listen to Professor Vijay's lecture. I was really looking forward to this course, and the starting has been really, really fascinating. I was listening to the research studies that you and your team has conducted, and kind of overwhelmed because so much, I mean, you talked so fluently, and like the flow was so smooth, but I'm very sure that when the research was actually conducted, there must have been quite a few ups and downs and quite complex process. But your session has been really, really fascinating and encouraging. I just wanted to ask, because my experience in participatory research has been rather limited. Because working in the research unit of College of Social Work, Nirmala Niketan, most of the research studies come either as need assessment, feasibility studies, or impact evaluation. So, but we have had 2 studies. Both of them were with children. And there we went through the NGOs which were working with these children. So when I was listening to your session, I realized that participatory research requires a kind of credibility establishment, not only rapport building. You need to have credibility with the participants before they can really participate fully in the research process. So can you give me, I mean, based on your experience and expertise, for a person, for a research unit like us, if we have to go for a participatory research in the field or with the stakeholders with whom we have not yet worked much, then what should be our first step? I know, I mean, this is a very basic question. But...
No. So I'll try and answer, but we also have 2 other experts here, so it'll be nice if they also add. So basically, I think it has to start with a conversation, and maybe a very informal conversation. First of all, if you really want to involve stakeholders, you have to start with the framing of the problem itself. Because the framing of the problem may not be the same the way you see it. Okay? So let me give you an example, a very bizarre example. If you're doing a research on, let's say, human rights violations of prisoners, and you go and talk to prison officers about it, that what do you think about this problem? They are likely to come up and say, this is all very good. I'm very, yes, there are problems, there are violations of basic human rights of prison population. But what about our own human rights? Why doesn't anybody talk about our human rights? Why doesn't anybody talk about the fact that we are made to work 12 to 14 hours a day without any break? Look at the kind of working conditions and salary and housing conditions that we have, and there is no training that is given to us after, we do our first initial induction training, and if we make any mistake, the lowest rung person is suspended and nothing happens to the senior officers. I mean, they'll give you can talk to them for 2 hours about all the problems they have. And you say, no, I'm not here to listen to all this. I have come with my understanding of violation of human rights of prisoners. That would be a disservice to the idea of participatory research. So you then have to link your problem, which you are trying to investigate, with the perspective that you have now got by talking to the prison officers and saying, is the working conditions of prison officers have any link to the human rights violations of prisoners? And if there is a link, which there is, then it becomes imperative that you include this aspect that has been brought in by your stakeholder as one more indice in your list of indices which you are going to look at when you're doing a study on human rights violations of prisoners. And you have to make a point that human rights violations of prisoners does not only happen because some cruel prison officer, but it has also to do with these factors. And you need to then weave it into your objectives, into your research questions, and including your tool. So this is how I would say that unless and until you are ready, you're sincere about involving stakeholders. There are two types of involving stakeholders. One is tokenism. Like how government does, what do you say, those, before any policy is to be passed, they do those public hearings because it has to be done. Have you seen how those public hearings are done? There is no publicity around it. People just suddenly one day, one meeting is held, few people arrive and they have done their public hearings. Okay, but there is a way to do public hearings. So what is your intention? If your intention is to tick all the boxes, then you will never do real participatory research. But if your intention is to actually involve participants, as many stakeholders, because you see a value in it, and involving stakeholders does not mean you buy their argument lock, stock and barrel. Then you will be left with no foundation only. Different people will have different views and you keep trying to incorporate those views, you will end up with nothing. Confused kind of you keep your focus clear. This is what I want to study. But I want to see what the different perspectives are, and I want to see how I can involve it, include it in my research design and in my methodology, in my objectives and my research questions, in my tool, to the extent possible, without, going away from the original problem that I wanted to investigate. I mean, I don't know if there are more ways to describe it. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Many points to gather. I hope I remember all these points. But
Yeah.
thank you very much.
I'm sure Vibhuti and Manorama may have.
I think bringing in discourse power is very important. When we do the participatory action research, who holds power, who has the pattern, and who is at the receiving end of these people. So I think systems and structures, without addressing them, we can't do that. For example, a dying declaration. We all throughout the 80s, we feminists used to see we represented the survivor, the victim of burns, no? And we used to, all the relatives and even victims themselves would say that the police presence at the time of dying declaration, it resulted in leaving the culprits without any kind of action by the state, no? Because they would take, that was the thing, the girls' side would say that they were taking bribe and hushing up the case, and they would, instead of supporting the survivor, they would just say, "You, in any case, you are going to die. Don't you know you are a Hindu woman? But your husband is a husband for your seven lives. Why do you want to blame him? Just you are going to, who is going to look after your children if your husband goes to the jail?" This is the kind of threat which the women were facing, and they were reporting to us, their relatives, that they want to hush up the case. So we demanded from the police commissioner that feminists should be allowed to be present when the dying declaration is taken, and we had enough qualitative data and the interviews of the people. We organized a workshop in Nirmala Niketan in College of Social Work, your institute, one-day workshop on institutional support to women women victims of violence. That time survivor word was not there in the early 80s. And that prepared the document and made the whole procedure to be changed. That at the time of dying declaration, social workers have to be present. You can't take it in this thing. So we had we just been only worried about the constable who has to be there for 13, 14 hours when this thing, that would okay, that is also one aspect. Sheila Barsa has done a lot of work on the condition of the police, which under which they are working. But here, how were they abusing their power to and malpractice also, because it was a corrupt practice, no? And dehumanizing this woman who is screaming for water, who is under tremendous 85%, 90% burns victim, and she's asking for water, and everyone is insulting and humiliating and threatening her. So then we have to decide, we have to take side, with whom we are. So I think that is the dilemma we are facing when we do the participatory action research. That you can't be neutral. That the whole thing which positivism is telling us, that maintaining distance from the research, that cannot happen. You are a participant, you are observer, and you can't be just a mute observer. You have to stick out your name. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
There is one more thing in a chat box, no?
Yes, there's a question by Tanuja. Says participatory action research is best conducted by groups, by institutions, ?
Sorry, I didn't get the question actually.
It just says participatory action research. I think it's the question, is it best conducted by groups or by institutions?
How does it?
Can it be conducted only by groups and institutions, or even individual can?
Yes, I suppose, yes, why not?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, can be conducted by individuals. The methodology is there, which you need to look at, but doesn't have to be done by a group or an individual, as long as you are involving stakeholders in that process of the problem identification, the framing of the research questions, the objectives, and it won't be possible fully at every stage, but at least if there is a mechanism of taking feedback at every stage before you move ahead. And then after you've collected data and you again consult them when it comes to findings, and then you consult them when you make the recommendation. So I think there are these crucial stages. One is the definition of the problem, then the identification of the objectives and the research questions, then running with them with the tool once, then you do your data and collection, then you come back to them when you have come up with your findings, and then you come back to them with your recommendations. At least some 4 or 5 stages, if you can try and involve the stakeholders, and maybe not all stakeholders, but as many types of stakeholders as possible. It's a very painstaking process, therefore. It is a longer process, therefore. It's not something which you can, like when you're doing your PhD, you finish your data collection and then you get into writing. But here, again, at every stage, you will need to consult. You will need to take feedback from the stakeholders. And somebody has asked a question, whether one can do participatory action research as part of your PhD. And my answer is yes and no. Yes, because yes, you can do it. And no, because, your PhD is a time-bound process. So all of us who have done our PhDs know how difficult it becomes it's like a race towards the end. So, I mean, it's a personal question. I don't have an answer to it. It's something that you have to really commit yourself to it then, along with your guide. Because if your guide is not ready for it, and then you'll have problems. So, I don't know if I've answered your question, but this is how I would respond.
Next we have Shreya Shekharji.
Hi, thank you for having me in this cohort. Professor Vijay Raghavan sir, it was quite interesting, the case studies that you were talking about. I had a couple of questions on the interview methodology. You mentioned that your team had gone into these jails and spoken to these women personally. I'm assuming they were semi-structured interviews?
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned something about involving the stakeholders in as many steps as possible within your research, right? And you use the word indices and the comparisons that we make and the kind of frameworks and standards that we are using. So I would imagine that if you're going in for these semi-structured interviews and you're talking to these people, and as you come across more indices and more kind of parameters that you find relevant to the research, and if you try and involve them in the rest of your process, does that mean that you can go back to the previous interviews, or how does that impact the comparative quality of the study?
No, so, in many ways, I would say that it's an iterative process. So as you go along the way, you may come across stakeholders who will add one more layer to your data collection process. They'll say, have you looked at this angle? This is a very important angle. And so you say, your eyes and ears, your mind opens up to it. Oh, I didn't think about this. Then you take that with you for your next interview. And you ask that question to the next person whom you're interviewing. And there can be two outcomes of that. One, that they will reinforce that aspect by saying, yes, this is very important. The other is they may say, no, I don't agree with this. I don't think this is a very important thing. And you will continue that maybe for a few more interviews till you arrive at some kind of a assessment as to how important that particular indice or indicator or parameter is in your overall research process. So at least that's how I would do it. Instead of yourself deciding what is important and what is not important, you let your participants and your stakeholders decide what is important more or less. So any new data piece in terms of a new layer or a new indicator or a new parameter that comes up, you take it seriously and take it to your next participant. And you take it to your next participant and you take it to your next participant. And soon you will arrive at either an understanding that, yes, this is a very important aspect which I had overlooked, and now I'm going to include it in my data collection process. Or you might arrive at a thing saying, maybe I'm good with not including it. I have considered it well enough to take a final call on it. I hope it answers your question.
Okay. Next we have Aishwarya ji. You may unmute yourself.
I had already asked the question.
Yeah, and I've answered it. Yeah.
Okay.
Shweta, can we close now, because I have to...
Only one thing is by the Shanmita. She asked that do we need to take permission before doing qualitative research? The question of ethics is answered.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. She has two questions in the question box. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So now I think that's the end of it. Okay. So thank you so much, sir, for your engaging talk with us. We hope to see you in further IMPRI events as well. Thank you so much for the session.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this session because of the questions that came up at the end.
Yeah. very engaging session we had.
Yes, yes. As it is, the online mode is a little depressing.
Yeah.
And
Here,
then,
the motivation is high, so
yes,
it's
right.
not a classroom lecture where students
Yes,
are
yes.
just captive audience.
Yes,
There's
yes.
by choice there.
Yeah, students are black boxes with names written on them.
Correct. Here, all of them are big
We have all
professionals.
gone through
And
it
it is
for
on
2
demand.
years.
We have kept it on Sunday because they are busy on the weekdays.
Yeah,
That's why this session is on Sunday.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for inviting.
Thank you, Professor Vijay. We have started with a great applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, I would like to invite Vaishali ji for to give us the orientation.
Thank you, Shweta. Priyanka, can we have the screen, please?
Yes, sure.
All right. Very good afternoon to everyone. Today, I'll be dwelling into the important aspects of the fellowship, the requirements that are to be fulfilled by the fellows. First of all, we'll be sharing over the email the guideline document with the fellows. It contains a detailed information of how you will go about your research reports. So this is how the guideline document comes out to be like. First, we have the full-on about section of the fellowship. Moving on, we have provided the details, and there's also a link to our first fellows cohort research reports that we have published in an edited format. And this is something that we'll show you at the end, how the reports have been put together. Moving on from this slide, please. Right, we have provided the program time structure as well with you in the guideline document. Along with this, it will be provided in the event page as well. You can go through this where all you will have the sessions. Moving on, please. Right, we have the program details here. So month one will be the orientation where you will be apprised of what are the qualitative research method class, research tool preparation and testing, stakeholder mapping. Month 2 will delve into the pilot and fieldwork, research writing and report class as well. Month 3 will be fieldwork and reporting. Month 4 will be reporting, analysis and report submission along with report review and completion. It is to be understood there are 3 compulsory components of the fellowship. First being the abstract submission of your title and the topic that you're going to pick. Second is going to be the presentation of the research report that you have of the research that you have undertaken, and third is submission of an article to be published in the edited book. Also, please note that when you are undertaking your research, it is advisable that you take pictures and small clips as well of your field work and share it with us. Also, the participants will conduct field work at their own expenses. Moving on. Right. We in the guideline document, we have also mentioned the timeline that you're supposed to refer to for abstract submission, presentations, and your final report. First being the May 12th, which is going to be next session, which we are going to delve into the topic selection and discussion with the chair and the experts. May 16th is your abstract submission. After you'll have the discussion, there's going to be abstract submission. And we are also going to circulate in the coming week a Google form where you will fill up the details that involves your topic, your location, your area of study as well. May 19th and moving forward till July 7th is going to be our interactive discussions as well with our chair and experts to discuss or clarify any of the issues that you're facing during your research or any clarification that you seek. Also, you can reach out to us at the email for any of the clarification in between that or any suggestions or any kind of support that you seek from our expert and chair. We'll reach out to you via email as well. On July 25th is a submission of your final draft of your research report because that is also supposed to be given via email for review and suggestions from our chair, Vibhuti ma'am. And August 4 and August 18 is going to be presentations where the fellows will present their research reports in slide form. I'll come to that in the following section. August 18 is again going to be program presentation, interactive session with the chair and the expert. August 28th is the final deadline for the final report submission. And there's going to be, as per the IMPRI guideline, which we have mentioned in the guideline document in the following pages. Moving on from the timeline, we have the program highlights. Next, we have mentioned the research guidelines. You can see that how you're supposed to put forward, put your research. There's going to be a defined research problem. Then there's going to be a review of literature. Then there's going to be formation of a hypothesis, designing research methodology. Then comes your collecting data stage, and then the analysis, then interpretation and reporting, and your conclusion and recommendation that comes forward. You can also look at the phases that in which you're supposed to go about your research. The phases are also oriented with our program time structure. This is how we'll help you and support you as you carry out your research. Moving ahead, right? As Sir has also discussed the various ways in which research is supposed to be conducted, like stakeholder mappings, the various kind of tools that you're supposed to use. Moving forward, Priyanka. Right. We have also outlaid the broader stakeholders that are to be identified by you as per your research. We have provided how they are government, legislative, then we have government implementing agencies, professionals such as journalists, lawyers, activists, doctors, civil societies, beneficiaries, academicians, researchers, relevant individuals and citizens. And then we have also detailed about how many stakeholders you can go about, which is usually 15 to 20 stakeholders for your interview. And also we have also provided you with the techniques to identify the stakeholders we have mentioned here, such as government websites, Google search, snowballing. Then we have also provided the tools preparation. Moving forward, right, we have provided you how you can go about conducting interviews or focus group discussions or semi-structured questionnaires, whichever is suitable, and as per discussion with the chair, you can select your tool. Then we have the tool testing stage as well, pilot study. That is also something that has been, we have provided you details, and then comes the fieldwork stage as well. Moving forward. All right, we have the report writing as well. Also, while you're going to conduct your field research, we are going to provide you with a letter of support for you to go up to any of the stakeholders to show that why you're conducting this research, what is your affiliation with. So we're going to provide you with that letter of support as well. Moving forward with this, we have provided the style guidelines. As you will come to the reporting of the research, you're supposed to adhere to the style guidelines. We have mentioned how they are supposed to be Times New Roman, font size, styling, spelling, what are the kind of things that you're supposed to take into account, such as abbreviations, how you're going to write that. Numericals are how they are supposed to be written, date, how they are supposed to be written when you're going to write your research report. Moving forward. So everything is mentioned here. Also, we have mentioned the reference style, which is the APA one that IMPRI follows. Kindly adhere to it. And we have also provided with example how you're supposed to write it. If at any point you have some doubts, and also cross-reference your references as well. That is also important to understand where you have picked up, what idea you have picked up of the author that you're quoting, right? Also, kindly adhere to the reference style in this. We have given you the example as well. Moving forward. All right, next one. Right. Now, the research report, there's a certain layout of your research report, how you're supposed to present it and provide it. We have provided you with that layout here. There's going to be one cover page, inside cover page, executive summary of your research. Then there'll be a content page. Along with that, after that will come the introduction, where you're supposed to include the review of literature, the motivation of your research. Also, there's going to be objectives of your research. They're going to be listed out in numbers, and then there's going to be research questions, number of questions that you have formulated, the hypothesis, then the research methodology that you have adopted. Kindly provide a brief or a detailed paragraph of the research methodology, mentioning the research design and the tools, whatever you have adopted, what were your stakeholders, everything needs to be provided here, the number of stakeholders that you had taken. The findings of your research comes next after the research methodology, then the analysis will come, recommendations and conclusion. After that, there'll be a section on acknowledgement, references, annexures, which will include any kind of media, gallery, your questionnaire, interview questionnaire that you have formulated. And you can also mention with whom you have conducted the research as well. And then comes about the author, about the program, and last will be the cover page. We will provide you with the last cover page as well, the template of you as we move forward with the fellowship. But this is the layout of the research report that you're supposed to follow. Then we have also provided you with the example of how your research report is supposed to be written. We have provided you 2 examples. One is there, and moving ahead. Then we have, there's another example here, example number 2. Moving forward with this. Right, then we have post-submission guidelines also for publication. We have provided details of where all you can get your research report published. For example, you can obviously create your own ResearchGate profile or an academia profile, and you can upload your research report that you have conducted. With the help of our chair's suggestions and continuous support, it's going to come out as a refined outcome. So you can get it published in such a platform such as ResearchGate and academia by creating your profile. We have also provided the details on what all is to be followed, such as you can provide IMPRI as your institute affiliation in both the profiles. Moving forward. Right, you can also provide a blog article for IMPRI Insight, which is usually 800 to 1,000 words. You can look up to this at IMPRI website as well. We have provided a link for submission guidelines. Then as I've spoken about the contribution to the edited book volume, which is supposed to be in 3,000 to 4,000 words. And we have provided you the template of how it is supposed to be written and submitted to us for the publication. Then you are supposed to present the PPT. It is supposed to be in 5 to 6 slides. In 5 minutes, you're supposed to put forward your findings and recommendations of the research. We have also provided guidelines, details of that under number 5, presentation and felicitation ceremony. You can refer to this as well moving forward. We have publication outside IMPRI. You can obviously share your research report at various other platforms such as EPW, Sage Journals. IMPRI Journal is also one of the platforms you can submit your research report. Also, you can submit to paid commentary articles and any other electronic print media. Moving forward. Right. Also, we have mentioned how submitting abstract for paper presentation. The abstract is supposed to be around 250 to 300 words, and it is supposed to be sent via email. Then we have few important notes as well. Kindly follow their ethical guidelines as well. Kindly adhere to that. Kindly note that plagiarism should be checked before submitting your research reports, which is supposed to be 10%. It should be below 10%. So kindly adhere to that. And moving forward. Yeah, we have also mentioned about creatives for social media. If any of the fellows, they wish to submit any form of creative media while presenting, they can also share it via photos, videos, reads, or shorts as well. Moving forward. Right, we have also provided a comprehensive reading list that our experts have shared it with us. It has been listed in the guideline document itself. Moving forward, please. Thank you. Priyanka, if we can show them the anthology.
Yes, sure.
Yes, this is from our first cohort, the research report. We are about to release the second cohort's findings and recommendations as well. Can we go to the next? Yes, this is how the book. Yes, moving forward. Right, this is how the previous fellows have presented their chapters in this book. Moving forward. Right. You can access it at impribooks.com website as well. If you want to go into detail, it's a PDF form. It's free of cost. You can access it and read about how it has been written. And if any doubts or any clarification or any support is required, you can write it to us as well. And we are going to create a WhatsApp group as well for more easy communication with fellows and us. And our chair as well, Vibhuti ma'am, is going to be there in the WhatsApp group as well. She's easily available over email as well, very prompt with your queries. Thank you. Over to you, Shweta.
Before that, yeah, Shweta, sorry. Before that, I would like to also present that for our fellows for the books, we need some pictures and details about the fellows as well. So I'll just be presenting how we present that in our book towards the end as a part of our fellows profile. Yeah. So let me just present that as well. So in the coming future, we'll be asking you to kindly share your picture with us and a little introduction that we can add over here, something like this. So these were the fellows in the previous cohort and our cohort 1. And so we'll be asking you via mail for this also. So please do keep that in mind and revert back to us as soon as possible. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, we can, I think, now move on to the participants' introduction. I urge everyone to kindly raise hand on the platform, and we'll call upon the names so the participants can take turns in introducing themselves. Yes, Kalyani ji.
Yeah, I think a little bit of my introduction has already been done. But hi all, I'm Dr. Kalyani Talwalkar. I'm Assistant Professor and Faculty in Charge, Research and Development Cell at College of Social Work, Nirmala Niketan. So I teach three main areas of interest I have. One is definitely research methodology. Within that, qualitative is something I feel is very close to social work research, and disability studies and the community organization. These are the subjects I teach at College of Social Work, Nirmala Niketan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalyani. Nice to have you. Yeah, yeah. Dr. Manodar. Please unmute yourself, madam.
Well, I'm public health professional with almost 25 years of experience working across HIV/AIDS, RM, and CHA. Then I was with Tata Trust as senior advisor almost for 5-6 years. And now I am director of healthcare advocacy. Now I'm into different domains, right from genomics to NCD to communicable diseases. Now I am doing everything like else. Connecting from business to business, business to government, government to consumers, into everything actually in healthcare consultancy. But prior to that, I was with multilateral organizations, UNDP, ILO, followed by Ministry of Health, and followed by Tata Trust across these 25 years. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. I would also request Kalyani ji to mention your research topic, if you have decided.
Research topic. Okay. My doctorate was on the topic of school recreation, focusing on co-curricular and extracurricular activities in special schools for children with hearing impairment and their development, their impact on the development of these children in the school. So I had looked at non-academic activities in special schools and how they help the children with hearing impairment in learning also and in their school engagement also. So that was my doctorate. I have been a part of more than 30 studies involved with research and development cell for more than 6 years. And I have done as I said, most of my studies have been, initially it used to be quantitative research studies. I can actually see the evolution of research methodologies over the years, looking at need assessment and impact evaluation. Now there is more and more request for mixed research method to be used, and more a lot of requests for impact evaluation studies of both from NGOs as well as government organizations. So I have been part of research studies that have been commissioned by non-government organizations, government organizations, like even government departments like Social Welfare Department and MMRDA, and international organizations as well. Like we have just finished a study which was commissioned by IST, looking at, again, impact of interventions of IGEN for minor girls which were rescued for commercial sex trade. So range of topics actually.
Yes, thank you so much. For the upcoming participants' introduction, you all must be receiving invites to join as panelists. Kindly approve that, and you can turn on the videos for the same. So the introduction, the process could be, you can introduce yourself with name, designation, organization, location, brief profile, and what inspired you to join, and the research topic you are looking to work on. Right. So with this, hands raised. Okay. You can proceed on with Tanuja ji.
Hello. I'm Tanuja Sachdev. I am an associate professor at Jesus and Mary College, Delhi University. Am I audible?
Yeah, now
yes.
Okay. So I'm an associate professor of political science at Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. Over the years, I've just moved from different areas, from foreign policy to Indian government, public administration. So varied areas. As a teacher, you're not confined to just teaching one course, and feminist studies. So vast areas of interest. I was inspired to take up to get training in this particular area because I think over the years I have felt, and this is where this research, this kind of research is of immediate interest because of, what they said, action research about bringing about social change, not being confined only to research journals. This is the reason why I was interested in taking up this course, and I'm really looking forward to working on it in the company. Thank you.
Yeah, honored to have you.
Thank you. Next, Pradeep Purushothamanji.
I think, sorry, I'm mute. I was muted.
Yeah.
Now I think I'm unmuted. So yeah, good afternoon again. My name is Pradeep. I am from an organization called PCVC, International Foundation for Crime Prevention and Victim Care, which is based in Chennai. My academic background, like when I'm an engineering graduate and then moved to social sciences. I have a master's in development studies from ISS in The Hague. But I was never part of an research work predominantly, except for my coursework in some courses. And now this particular course, yes, I'm interested in taking up research work, and we work with a lot of burn survivors as a part of our organization. We work with stakeholders that include government hospitals and burn survivors. So I want to bring in the gap between the policy and the burn survivors. So that's been like this course particularly interested me. So I'll be working, though my research topic is not finalized or completely made up, but then my top topic is going to be on burn survivors and the burn policies, what best could evolve for the burn survivors. So this is going to be my work. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next we have Aishwarya ji.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am Ishwarya. I'm doing PhD currently from Faculty of Law, Delhi University, and I'm in my third year presently, and I'm beginning my field work. Basically, I have started preparing questionnaires, and currently I'm engaging with Safai Karamchari Andolan, and I'm beginning my field work from there. So basically, my topic is a social legal inquiry into the interface between manual scavenging and law, wherein I'm tracing from a localized human rights perspective the approach, the resistance and assertion led by sanitation labor caste towards elimination of manual scavenging, and their lived experience with the law. So I am largely, as of now, approaching septic tank workers and sewage, or what we call manhole workers. And I am tracing their lived experience with the law, the intersectionality of caste and gender and labor law, and the challenges and limitations in policy implementation and rehabilitation measures, how it is not sustainable in the longer run. So that is the research, and I'm going to collaborate with multiple organizations working in the area, such as DASAM, Dalit Adivasi Shakti Adhikar Manch, SKA, and I'm currently thinking of adopting interpretive phenomenology as my methodology, because I'm interviewing multiple stakeholders. So, and I feel that this program is going to benefit a lot in terms of enriching my understanding of conducting a qualitative research. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Dipanjali ji.
Can I go ahead, ma'am?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure.
All right. So my name is Nivedita Singh, and I am from Delhi, and I'm pass out from Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi, Masters in Geography, and I completed my bachelor's from University of Delhi, Kamla Nehru College, and I'm currently a student of College of Social Work, Vimla Niketan, and I'm pursuing my research methodology from there. And Professor Kalyani is my professor. So she teaches me, and she's my mentor at that college. So yeah, and my research area lies in the domain of climate change, sustainability, and gender. And I have done more than 35 research conferences at international level, including UK, Sheffield, Westminster. And currently I'm fellow in London, and lots of things are there. So I am dwells in academia, I can say that. So yeah, it's all about myself.
Can I go ahead, ma'am?
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
My name is Shanmita, and I'm sorry I don't have the bandwidth to turn on my video. So I'm a fresh master's graduate. I graduated in international relations, and I'm really interested in the field of policy making. Right now, I work as a social sciences teacher in an international school for grade 8. But it's been restricting me. I'm not able to talk more than revolutions and wars. So I really want to expand my horizons and go further in my career. So my dissertation in my master's was the study of climate refugee crisis as a non-traditional security threat. And I had come up, of course, it was a research based on secondary resources. I couldn't literally use primary data. So I came up with a preventative approach and a policy-oriented approach. A preventative was carbon sequestration processes, and I also came up with a policy-oriented approach for the existing climate refugee crisis. So I am looking forward to this fellowship to enhance my skills in research and hopefully publish a good one in your book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Impressive.
Okay. Next, Ankita Kumari ji.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Nipanjali is this thing is not working. She can write in the chat box. Those who are not able to unmute, please write in the chat box.
Okay, am I not audible?
Yeah,
you're audible.
Okay, so I am Ankita. I'm from place called Sasaram from Bihar, and I just graduated from University of Delhi, Deshbandhu College in Economics and History. So I was kind of looking into nitty-gritty of the public policy and things, and this fellowship came right away. So I was kind of interested and I joined it right away. But to be very honest, after hearing all the introduction, I am feeling quite intimidated by the level of experience and expertise the people are having here. So I am hopeful that everyone will help me because it's quite a new thing for me. So I am looking as much as I'm looking forward for this participatory fellowship. I'm also looking for camaraderie and the help from my fellow seniors. And I will do my best throughout the tenure of this fellowship. And I have not finalized the research topic yet, but I'm quite interested in the self-help group in the local villages of Bihar and the Manrega. I have done a report on Manrega while I was in college, so I am I would like to expand on those things. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Participants can raise hands if they wish to go ahead next.
Hi, can I go next?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Shreya. I am
Yes.
currently working as a research associate in the Sustainable Futures Collaborative. I've been in the same role before this in the Center for Policy Research. And my background is in economics. I've done an MA in environmental economics, followed by an MSc in international development from Manchester. And then I've come back to kind of try to work in climate policy in India. I was interested in this course because it specifically spoke about research methodologies. I'm interested in qualitative research. I would like to pursue a PhD at some point in urban adaptations, and I wanted to use participatory planning as part of my methodologies. So this course kind of seemed to fit into that. I'm still not sure how I would be going about the fieldwork thing. But in the place that I work, we were looking into secondary cooling, and it has been an interest of mine to try to seek out how people are trying to address urban heat island effects using sustainable cooling techniques. So we were trying to kind of map the secondary AC and rental AC markets to try and figure out how it's become kind of like a blind spot because it doesn't come under our primary AC purview, and that also has large energy implications. So I might try and take that up as part of my fieldwork, seeing how this goes and seeing what appropriate methods I can get introduced to. Thanks.
Diksha Prerna ji.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diksha Mukhya, and
yes.
Okay. So my name is Diksha Mukhya, and I'm from DLR Prerna, an NGO that is based in Darjeeling. So I've done my graduation from Delhi University, GS and Mary, in economics, maths, and I went as well. And post that, I've been working with the DLR Prerna under currently 2 projects. So one at our partner schools, and
excuse me. I think there's a problem with your network connection. Okay, maybe Diksha ji, you can just put your introduction in the chat box. There's okay, I request Diksha ji to put it in the chat box.
Yeah. The on adolescent mental health project, children. So currently, my research with the child rights. Hello. Sure. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I visited your organization for the train, Prerna in Darjeeling. They are doing excellent work with this school children on mental health issues. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
2019 in your organization.
Oh, okay. That's not much ago, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
In the chat, yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. I'll put it
in the chat box. Dipanjali has written. Shweta, you can. I'm Dipanjali, currently pursuing postgraduate diploma in international law. I have completed bachelor's in political science department at Delhi University. I am a research intern and is currently exploring field of research.
Next, Ritika Vivekji.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ritika. I'm from Chennai and I'm currently just finishing my master's in development studies. So I got interested in this course
From
because
university. From which university?
From Azim Premji University in Bangalore.
Azim.
So we have a course on qualitative research, but I was interested in how research can inform policy. So that's why I got interested in this course. I'm not very sure about my area of interest. In university, I worked with street vendors and the Street Vendors Act. So that is one interest of mine. And I'm also interested in the issue of housing and how residents experience housing in resettlement colonies. So yeah, these are my two
urban
areas
housing.
of interest.
Urban
Yes.
housing.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sneha Sharma ji?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I am Sneha Sharma. I am an undergraduate student. I'm currently pursuing BSc Economics at Sarlan and Modi School of Economics at NMMS University in Mumbai. And I'm based in Kolkata. And yeah, so my coursework has dealt with basically quantitative research till now. So I want to learn more about qualitative research, especially participatory action research. And I would agree with Amsudaji as well that I'm more intimidated. I am very interested in this course, but like I'm a bit intimidated also due to lack of experience. But regarding my research topic, I did an internship at an NGO, which where I researched a bit about government school teachers and what they went through during COVID. So I might look into that, but I have not really finalized anything yet. So, but I'm really looking forward to learning a lot from this course. Thank you.
Sweta, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. Shrishti Chetri ji?
Hi everyone, my name is Srishti Chetri and I'm currently working at DLR Prerna organization, which is in Darjeeling, as a research assistant on the project Child Mental Health, we are working on the low-cost private schools on the topic child mental health. And currently, I am more engaged in the quantitative part of the research. So that's why I was a little interested in this qualitative research also. For the topic, I have not yet decided, so I'll get back soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone?
Yeah, I think I'm the last one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, ma'am, I am here.
So hi everyone.
Yes, Mangilalji.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hi everyone. I'm Pratiksha Thapa. So along with Dikshadi and Shrishti, I'm also a part of DLR Prerna. It's a Darjeeling-based NGO, and as of now, I'm working on two projects. One is T-Leaf Child Mental Health. Over there, I'm working as a research assistant, and the other project is T-Leaf Adolescent Mental Health. Over there, I'm a project officer. So on the both of these projects, I think we are mostly working with children and their mental health, which I think kind of goes with my background, which is in psychology. I have done my bachelor's from Indraprastha Women for College in DU, and I've done my master's from Sikkim University. Yeah, so I've always been interested in qualitative research. So, and policy making and all something, it's something that is very new to me. So yeah, I'm very interested as to how like qualitative data goes with these things and all. So whatever Sir said earlier was very interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to how the this fellowship goes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mangilalji?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Mangilal.
Little
And
louder, Mangilalji. We are not able to hear. Yeah.
good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mangilal, and I am currently pursuing my PhD from Chaudhry Charan Singh University, Meerut. And my PhD topic is the urban employment policies, especially a policy recently launched by the government of Rajasthan for the urban area. So, and I have finished two projects as a research assistant, which one on the Ayushman Bharat and second on the tuberculosis programs of the Indian government. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a very interesting group of people who are already pursuing research, and now, yeah. So it's going to be very interesting and very lively sessions we are going to have. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for your participation, everyone. In our previous cohort, our fellows had enthusiastically completed their research reports. Our duty was to take it further to the public as it talked about major issues, followed by critically curated, well thought out recommendations. Hence, our anthology of the reports submitted by the fellows came into being. So IMPRI books, upholding the tradition of publishing books of the highest quality in the multidisciplinary areas of research and policy impact. With this particular publication, we aim to contribute to scholars' interest in analyzing evidence-based and action-based studies. We hope to continue the same within the upcoming cohorts as well, including the one starting today. We will share the anthology with you over email and request you to go through it to get an idea of the kind of topics and policies that have been dealt with, along with the formatting template for the chapter. Kindly note that the guidance document that we have shared contains information on all of this, including the template for the research report and the chapter. So with this, we come to the end. I request Vibhuti ma'am for her remarks, closing remarks.
I think today, in day one, we had a very exciting session. And we also realized that how participatory action research is a various origins. Like when I told in the beginning, it all started in the Latin American countries, where two educationists, Paulo Freire and Ivan Illich, they used it for changing the syllabi of the educational institution, which was basically a very colonial way of imparting knowledge, where the people's problems were not included. But what we have seen that in a different regions, different as per the unfolding of the reality, participatory action research has been used not only as a tool, but also as a vision for the transformative change to bring in the communities, in the societies at a subnational level, and also at a macro level. So people affected by the particular problem, they are the major stakeholders, and the researcher acts as a facilitator. And it is a collaborative co-creation of knowledge that we do. And it is a very democratic process, which is a bottom-up process of knowledge production. It also accepts plurality of perspective. It is not that my way or a highway kind of approach. We go with the open minds. We don't have, like we economists have models, or sociologists have structural functional analysis, that kind of complex which the researchers don't have here. They are basically, they go with a tremendous humility to understand from the reality, and they also own the engagement is extremely deep. So exploring materialities, emotionalities, and aspect of non-representational experience, which they inform the progressive change. And that's why participatory action research has been exciting in terms of synergies with the social movements or feminist activism or the post-colonial, post-structural, post-modernist thinkers as well as practitioners have used this. It's not only limited to one particular discipline. Even the school of the architectures, engineers, even the medicine and fine arts, they have also used these methods for new construction of knowledge, which is rooted in the reality and which has a transformative potential. So I think this engagement of both productive engagement with the power and the area of language, representation, subjectivity, they are extremely important in participatory action research, because here the data is not numbers and percentages, but in a qualitative research, that your data are your words, your narrative, your observation, your feelings, the responses that you get when you see the unfolding reality. So I think we are going to have very, very exciting session in the coming months also, because all of you are so proactive, and your responses to the presentations by the expert, I would say that by the facilitators, are also going to be very, very valuable in the coming sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
yes. With the chair's permission, we can go for the vote of thanks.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead with the vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you so much. As we come to the end of day one of Public Policy Qualitative Participatory Action Research Fieldwork Fellowship Cohort 3.0, an online National Winter School program, a 4-month online immersive qualitative participatory action research fieldwork certificate training fellowship, I, Shweta, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of IMPRI, New Delhi. We are grateful to our experts for the day one session, Professor Vibhuti Patel ji and Professor Vijay Raghavan ji, and also Professor Bakshi, for taking their valuable time and allowing us to learn from this online certificate program. We would also like to thank Vaishali ji for providing the essential guidelines to be followed throughout the program. We also thank Professor Vibhuti ma'am for convening the session. We thank all of our participants who have raised pertinent questions and actively participated in today's deliberation. We look forward to welcoming you this Sunday, the coming Sunday, for our day 2 of this certification course by distinguished expert, Dr. Amar Jesani ji, and followed by topic selection and discussion with the IMPRI team. So Participants, buckle up for an incredible journey over the next 4 months. Your dedication, curiosity, and passion for positive change will shape the impact of this fellowship. We look forward to witnessing a remarkable work that will emerge from your efforts. Best of luck, and let's make this month unforgettable. We are grateful if you're watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications. We hope you continue to join in future for IMPRI Web Policy Talk and Web Policy Learning. Wishing you a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.